Hello there, beautiful humans. Welcome back. Sorry, I've been gone for like 2 weeks. Went on a little vacation with the hubs. I'll pop a picture right here. We went to the Caribbean for a trip with some friends. And on that trip, I managed to hurt my shoulder. So I can't do my hair by myself, hence what is happening here. But welcome back to Caroline Beth. Today we are in a little bit of a new place. We are downstairs in my kitchen because I'm home by myself and my dogs are outside and I don't want them to destroy my backyard. Dog mom props. So I've had a bunch of people ask me to do like a super in-depth resume and cover letter video or like share them. So I'm just going to do like an entire video completely dedicated to those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split screen. So on one side of the screen while I'm talking about my resume, I will have my resume up and we'll go through it together. And then for my cover letter, I'll have my cover letter up and we'll go through it together. So does that sound good to you guys? If you have better recommendations about whenever I do these videos in the future, let me know. Again, my name's Caroline. I'm a cosmetic nurse. Spent a lot of time in the ER. Just for a little background, I've been a nurse for almost 3 years. Have my RN BSN, and I'm in the state of Tennessee, just so y'all know. So here is my beautiful resume. I'll do it on both sides just in case, whichever split screen I decide to use. So obviously you want to start out with just like a pretty generic resume. So you want to start out, you want to have I do my education first. You want to go in chronological order. So basically you do your first degree first, second degree second. I think it's important to talk about your GPA. Some people don't, some people do. I think in the medical field it's helpful, but that's kind of up to you. That's up to personal preference. So right now I'm looking at Bachelor of Science, Nutrition and Public Health from UT. And then I went to LMU for my nursing degree. I like to put time frames. I think that's important. But that's just kind of the meat and potatoes of it. After that, obviously we're gonna talk about work experience. So I think it's really, really important if you don't have any cosmetic or aesthetic background in nursing, you want to try to illuminate kind of what about your hospital job or your doctor's office job would relate well to, a med spa, plastic surgeon's office, that kind of thing. Obviously, you want to go through all of the skills and basically what you learned and what you did in those positions. So I started out as an SNA in the ER. I talk about that. I then transitioned as an emergency room nurse at the same hospital. So I didn't have individual breaks for those. I just think that looks choppy, especially when you're trying to keep this on one page. I think that's kind of important. So after the ER, we went to float pool. So sorry, I have my little legal pad here. Perks of being married to a lawyer is you always have legal pads everywhere. So I think, like I said, specifically whenever you don't have a bunch of med spa experience, or really just with any, job application, you want to kind of speak to your strengths, but you also want to use what knowledge you have gained from these places and make it to where it sounds like they could be useful for this. So, we're talking about, we're adapting, we're broadening our scope of practice. This is important because if you're going into a new field of work or a new field of nursing, you want to use verbiage that is going to make this employer think like, oh yeah, they're gonna be able to, go with the punches and figure it out and learn, and they're gonna be motivated learners. So that's really, everybody's work experience is gonna be different. I think it's important to be thorough about the actual, clinical skills you gained. So, I work with needles all day, every day. So I think it was important for me to talk about how, I've been doing IV starts, I've been around patients. One of my downsides whenever I was applying for kind of my med spa job is I didn't really have a sales background. I've never been in a commission-based industry before. As an RN in the med spa, I make hourly as well as commission. And I probably, in hindsight, I could have done a better job to speaking to, hey, I can be a good salesperson. So if you have, like, let's say a nursing school, you worked at somewhere in the mall, or you worked at Verizon before or something like that, like, elevate whatever skill set you have, whether it be, I'm super comfortable with this type of patient population. I was an esthetician and know everything I could ever know about skincare, that kind of stuff. I think that's really important. And I think if you're like very, very strong in the classroom, talk about that. Like talk about, you know, if you have more extracurriculars than I did, if you have like a social media background, you know, these are things that are going to be very, very helpful to this med spa or plastic surgery industry. So after I went through all of my work experience, and if you guys have any questions about like ER, float pool, anything like that, ask those down below and I'll answer all of those. As far as, you know, if you're interested in becoming an ER nurse, I could do like a whole separate video about that. If you're just interested in kind of how to do a nursing resume, I can also do that because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. And as far as for references, so for my references, I had my preceptor because I felt like she could, granted, I had a very, very good preceptor experience. So I got my preceptor because I felt like she could really talk about my pros and cons, as well as she is very like socially minded. So I feel like she could talk to the fact that I was good at talking to people and I was good with my patients and I was good at multitasking. I didn't get overwhelmed, that kind of thing. And then I had my charge nurse, who has been a nurse a lot longer than me. She's a very, very competent, very well-structured nurse as far as her talents go, and I felt like she could really speak to my clinical side as far as my decision-making process, the ways that I learned, that I wanted to learn more, that if I didn't understand how to do something, I would figure it out or go to someone and ask for help if I didn't understand how to do something, that I was like a self-motivated learner. Because I think those two kind of, you know, get somebody that you work with directly kind of on your same level, because that's going to show your future employer kind of how does this person work with other people that they're going to be working with day to day. You know, are they a good team player as far as everybody being on the same plane? And then get somebody that was directly in charge of you, because that's gonna show your bosses, the people that are interviewing you, that hey, this person is good at working with other people. They're willing to be part of a team, but they can also kind of follow in line and be in the ranks and, you know, be a good employee, because that's important. I mean, you need to be a good team player, but you also need to be a good employee from kind of your bosses and owners' perspective, because a lot of times in a med spa or a plastic surgeon's office, you're working with a smaller group of people. So they need to know that you can work as a team, but as well as be a good employee and be someone that they can rely on. My third reference, I chose one of the emergency room physicians that I worked really closely with, just because I felt like it's helpful to have multidisciplinary people in your references. So you don't want them to all be nurses or all be estheticians or all be doctors. I think it's good to kind of give a good view of the people that you worked with from a multidisciplinary approach, specifically if, you know, one of the people that's going to be interviewing you is the medical director or like the plastic surgeon or the owner of the doctor's office from a like clinical perspective. Me personally, my medical director at the time was not the person that interviewed me or hired me, but I think, you know, I think it's important to have somebody that if you're looking at like a plastic surgeon's office, try to make sure that you have another doctor, because I think even though we don't want to talk about this, I mean, I feel like doctors are going to trust doctors more than doctors are going to trust nurses. So I feel like if you can get like a good solid doc that you trust, that knows you, that knows how you work, that knows how you do things, I think that's going to be really, really beneficial to you. So that's kind of just the brief rundown of my actual resume. And as far as formatting goes, obviously you want to have your contact information. I think it's nice to have your name and then like your credentials afterwards. So whether you're an MD, a PA, an NP, an RN, BSN, I think that just, you know, gets people's attention, because people love people that have initials after their name. I also think sorry, I'm looking, my computer's right here. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm actually looking at my resume. For med spa or plastic surgeon or more like pretty nursing, I think it's nice to, or really just anything, I think it's nice to have a little bit of formatting, but not make it over the top. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Elle Woods, but I don't think my resume needs to be pink and scented. But you do you. Make sure it feels authentic to you. You know, you want it to stand out, but I think the cover letter is where you really can stand out. I think the resume is more just kind of the meat and potatoes of kind of the interview process. And that's really all I have to say about the resume. I mean, obviously have somebody proofread it for you because grammar mistakes are no fun. I had my husband read it for me because he's the smart one of the two of us, just as far as he writes a ton being a lawyer. So I really wanted him to kind of look at it. Have as many people as you want. Have your mom proofread it. Have your dad proofread it. I know there are lots of companies that will proofread resumes for you. I don't really think that's necessary, but again, to each his own. So next, let's jump over to the cover letter. So I'm gonna pull that up. And I really think this is where you can shine. Specifically, if you have no med spa experience, I think the cover letter is really where you can make a difference and make an impact. And kind of get their attention and say, hey, listen, I know I don't have any experience, or I have this amount of experience, but this is why I'm gonna shine for you. So I think it's really important to kind of address the team that you're working with. So whenever you see a job posting, if you find it on Instagram or on Indeed or anything like that, if you don't know the direct name of the person that's going to be interviewing you, like, oh, my manager, Bobby Sue, is going to be interviewing me. If you don't know, I think it's important to address the team. So like I put to the Pure Luxe team. I think that's helpful just because it kind of covers all your bases. So if it is a doctor's office, say to Dr. blah, blah, blah and medical team, or to the office of Dr. blah, blah, blah. I think that's a better way to address it because I think it feels more inclusive. And then, you know, if Bobby is interviewing you, but the cover letter is made out to Jolene, then I just looked at my dog named Jolene. I was like, yeah, let's give a cover letter to Jolene, you know, to Jolene. Then I feel like that can almost cause a power struggle between people. And so I think it's helpful to just stay as neutral as possible whenever you're addressing people. So as far as the format of my cover letter, I decided to title it in regards to the Instagram post because I think it's very specific to tell people where you found the job posting because I think that kind of clues them in, especially if it's somewhere that kind of sets you apart. You know, if it's just a random job posting that is on Indeed or some of the other job websites, I think it's nicer because you're like, I've chosen. If you find it through social media or a friend refers you, I think it's important to kind of let that company know where you found them because that kind of makes it look like you've done your research and you've been interested more than just kind of a fly-by-night position. So let's see. So obviously you want to have an opening intro as far as if you've never had med spa experience or plastic surgery experience. I think it's important to talk about kind of the physical and the mental aspect of things. So I chose to talk about how I feel like when you physically feel good on the outside, it helps you mentally feel good on the outside. I got those flipped. If you feel mentally good on the inside, that's reflected physically on the outside and vice versa. I think that was a good way for me to broach the subject of hospital to med spa. And then I think it's important to kind of have an anecdotal part of, you know, why is this important to me? Why am I interested in this realm of nursing? For me personally, it was because I had gone through a little bit of a transformation. That's corny, but I'd gone through a little bit of a transformation in myself a couple years prior. I'd lost some weight, and I realized how impactful that had been for both my physical and mental health, as well as just my overall happiness. So I think it's important to be kind of anecdotal. You know, be yourself. I mean, if they're gonna interview you, they want to interview you and get to know you. You know, I don't want any of you guys to feel like this is what you have to do to get this job. Like, make it your own. But I mean, you know, I want this to be a good like starting point for you guys, but you know, be yourselves. Like, let whatever makes you interesting and happy and who you are, whatever makes you special, elevate that, because that's what's gonna set you apart from everybody else, I think, at least. So have some anecdotal in there. And I think it's really important to talk about what you can contribute as well as to integrate yourself into the team atmosphere. Obviously in the hospital, you're working with a multidisciplinary team. Any nursing position, you're gonna be working with a multidisciplinary team. I think it's very important in your cover letter to address if you have experience or if you don't. Either way, you need to you know, talk about those things, because I think a lot of people just breeze over the fact like, oh, I don't have any experience. It's like, no, you need to address that and say like, I realize that I'm new to this, but this is what I have to offer. This is what I think my skills from here could relay here. Hence in mine, I talked about I can be a contributor and I'm dedicated to a team. Like, talk about how the hospital is going to, you know, enhance what you have to offer from you. As far as, you know, like, I'm really good at being part of a team. I can multitask. I can learn on my feet, that kind of thing. And I think it's important to, if you can, add quotations or use some of the same verbiage that the company you're interested in uses on either the job posting, the website, their social media, because that shows, again, that you've done your research and that you're interested in them and that you've been following them, that kind of stuff. I mean, everybody wants to feel important, and I feel like that does a good job of making whatever your, you know, your potential employer, they need to feel like they're important to you to really want to like give you a shot, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, you know, always, you know, try to be patient focused, try to be yourself, but you know, don't lie, don't be somebody that you aren't, you know, just be yourself, and, you know, go in there with a good attitude and be happy, and, you know, if this is really something you think you want to do, like, just go for it. That's really all the like tips and tricks I have. If you guys have any other questions, I'm gonna try to kind of funnel all the resume and cover letter questions to this video, so that way we can just kind of like have a thread of questions, so that way people can look back and kind of get all their information from here. But yeah, so welcome back to Caroline Beth. I hope you guys like the bell. I hope you, click the bell, give me a couple likes, click the subscribe button if you want more like nursing, lifestyle-y stuff. I plan on trying to do like 1 to 2 videos a week now that I'm back. Like I said, had my little fun in the sun, but I'm back and ready to roll. So yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I can't wait to talk to you guys. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.